And Mr. Chairman, we're live streaming.
I'm saying hello to everybody and I'm on mute. How's everybody doing?
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
Doing great. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Councilman?
Great.
I'm gonna ask the mayor to bring a few words before we open up the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me.
Sure.
Would y'all join me in prayer for just a minute? And our Father, please bring your protection and grace to those who have suffered tragedy today at a school in near Nashville, Tennessee. Our prayers go out to the families, and please help everyone in this country to creatively find ways to avert future gun violence in schools and in all public places. In your great name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Amen.
Thank you. Let's entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 13th. The motion
So moved.
properly moved, and we have a second to that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Any questions on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Acceptance and dedication of easements, rights of way and easements, Mr. O'Brien.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Julie, you want to take the first one? We have information here regarding the request for abandonment of a portion of an ingress easement in conjunction with the North Pitchfork. I'm going to let Julia explain real quick, and she's got some people to assist in any questions we may have.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share screen with you guys so you can see what it is we're talking about. The team with this project is actually on the line, so I'm actually going to pass it off to them so they can give you a history on this easement that was dedicated to the public a few years back. And now they're asking to abandon a portion of it to get through the TRC process now that the Northern Pitchfork Road is underway. George, are you going to take this, or have you got someone on your engineering team that wants to do this?
Yes, ma'am. I can take it. And then if there's detailed questions, Dee Dee can jump in if that's all right with you, Julia.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, thank you all for having us today. As Julia mentioned, we've been working over the last year plus with TRC moving through the applicable approval process. During that time, and the Pitchfork Road is obviously under construction right now. This easement that was referenced by Julia a moment ago was actually dedicated by a plat on January 10th of 2001. This was before or prior to the Pitchfork Road construction and even the alignment at that time. And it was to benefit a portion of the property that is now below. You can see on the screen right now that's owned by the beach company, as well as other parcels there. Through the construction, the alignment of the Pitchfork Road, the construction of the Pitchfork Road, it's our understanding this portion of the easement is no longer needed and is just excess, obviously an excess portion of the easement. So what we're asking to do is abandon just the portion that the Pitchfork Road is not encumbering right now or is not transversing. And I think it's about a 0.56 acres. And it's highlighted there where the cursor is in green.
Oh, this one, excuse me.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, questions? Any committee members have any questions on this? Any no questions? Is there a motion out there?
Move to approve.
So moved.
Okay, probably moved in second. We have a second to the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any final questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, E2, Ocean Bluff Phase 1C, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you very much.
Yo, thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. Oak Bluff Phase 1C is just a standard dedication of these roads, which are completed as a part of a subdivision located in Berkeley County in the Cainhoy area. And all the work has been constructed and inspected and accepted, and we would recommend it be put into the city's road system.
Okay,
So moved.
properly moved and is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions on that easement and roadway?
Oh,
Yes, sir,
Tom,
Mr. Mayor.
if I may ask, this issue's come up a couple of times recently about the percentage of our roadways that are city owned, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Are you kind of keeping track of, as we go, like how many linear feet of street here we're picking up and
Yes, sir.
keeping?
We keep that, and that's actually reported monthly in our CAPS report. And also at the end of the year, we have that number, and I'll be glad to share last year's numbers with everybody. And also Robbie and I, because some other things going on recently, we've got the percentage breakdown, which has just been discussed at council a few times, of city versus state maintained roads also. So we have that information, and I'll prepare that in an email and send that to everybody.
That'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I think there's a motion on the floor. Let me carry to approve E2. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Temporary encroachments F1 through 5. Mr. O'Brien, anything?
Yes, sir. I'd like to call the attention of the committee to number 5, where we have on there 208 Gordon, where that's a request of denial. And we'll also see under our update, we have a little discussion we'll give you on that at that time. But I just wanted to let that be that we're recommending for denial. That also is going to be deferred at this time. So I'll explain that a little bit later in a minute.
Okay, good deal.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions on this temporary encroachment? Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. G1, environmental services update.
Yes, sir. I spoke with Matt this afternoon after another meeting we had. We're doing really, really great. A lot of our equipment is being maintained by our fleet, and we're running on time in both garbage and trash. Starting to see a little bit of an uptick in trash, as you can imagine, with spring cleaning and the growing season starting. People are coming out, but we feel real good about staying on top of that. And all our crews, we have not had to work on weekends for several weeks now, and we're going to hope to continue that trend. And a lot of that goes with the fact we're able to keep our equipment up and running, and the crews are doing a fantastic job. And I'd just like to send a shout out to them.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. That's great news. I mean, you don't have to work double time on that one. It's good to hear that you don't have to work on the weekend. That's such a
So
good
the guys, well, some of them they hate missing the overtime, but they like having the time off. So it's good.
I understand that too.
Yes, sir.
Any input on Mr. Bryan on environmental update? Now G2, encroachment along 3rd Avenue.
Yes, so we've had a request from a family that lives over there. On their address is 208 Gordon, which backs up. This is an unimproved paper street. Yeah, you could say public right of way, and they've requested to place a gate across that right of way. And the staff has recommended denial, but they are actually out of the country at this time and asked that we defer this until our April meeting to honor their request. We're going to ask you respectfully defer it till then. We'll make the presentation at that time and also give them an opportunity to make their case.
Okay, Councilman Chie.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, is this something that we had discussed previously at council on? I can't remember the exact topic of whether it was rezoning request at some point or.
This is actually Councilman Shea. This is exactly right. We've had several requests for some of these paper streets over in the Wagner Terrace area for people to either quit claim and take them over by closing and abandonment, or just to put permanent encroachments. And we, as the policy kind of staff and recommendation and staff talking to Jason Kronsberg in Parks and Matt Fountain with Stormwater, is these, even though they may not be of use right now, for future use of city, for public land, for either drainage or parks purposes, we want to keep and maintain the ability to control these areas. So we're recommending denial of these requests now, and that's kind of been our procedure. You may recall last fall we had one in the same area where someone had wanted to come in there, and we did the same thing, and we recommended denial, and council supported us at that time on that.
Yeah, I thought this was sort of part of that same discussion.
Yes, sir.
That we were having, and seems like some of the same issues we're rehashing. Okay. Thanks for that clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and then Councilman Ross Appel. Mr. Mayor?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the lady that put this application in contacted me, is it Gladstein?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So, and by the way, she says that, and she had some pictures of her planting, Spartina grass in the kind of restoring the marsh. But she claims that, a number of folks are, accessing the property back there. It's public property, but that they are, being destructive of plant life beyond the critical line, and had cut down some trees for view without anybody's permission, and certain things like that. I am not in favor of entitling her or anyone to erect something in our public right of way. If we made the decision to control access, I think that's a decision that the city can and should make if circumstances require. So I would like to ask anybody who has any knowledge, particularly our Parks Department, maybe somebody go out and reconnoiter a little bit. Is there a problem with other folks getting access to this right of way and being disruptive of the ecology there and all like that? So, Tom, if we could get maybe with Jason and ask him to investigate that before this comes back to the committee, I think that would be a good thing to know.
Yes, sir. We've actually done some of that legwork, and I was actually out there last week myself walking the area. So we'll continue to have a report and make our presentation at the April meeting.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good. Councilmember Pell.
You, Mr. Chairman, and just to follow up on the mayor's thought process there, Tom, is this the same area where they're the folks that own a piece of property sort of marchward of the right of way, and they've been trying to access their private property through this paper right of way? Are you familiar with that? I was on some.
Yes, sir, I am, but I think that's farther down 3rd Avenue, Councilmember Rappel. I think that's a different location. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, got it.
I think they're 2 properties down.
Okay.
Well, they are,
Just wanted to make
just so you know, Councilman Appel, the people that are asking for the fence, it's all related, just so you know.
Okay, got it. And so just in the interest of us all making sure we have all the perspectives heard when this is discussed at the next meeting, let's extend, an opportunity for the folks on both sides to at least have an awareness that this discussion item is going to happen. Because I think, if someone's trying to access their private property through a city right away, I think that's something we need to be allowing, all things being equal, and we need to be very careful before we start closing off public access for folks to access their own private property. And without getting too much into the weeds on this, I know we're deferring this. I just wanted to raise that concern and make sure we have the appropriate folks notified so they can participate. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, but I kind of agree with the mayor on this one. As far as permanent encroachment, that's one thing, access is another. But we look forward to the information being provided, next month. Or at the next, is it a month from now they want deferred?
We'll get, they're actually, like I said, out of the country. We'll get with them and see which date in April works better for them and be ready to go then.
Okay, good deal. All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for the information. Mr. Fountain, H1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So item H1 is approving the ordinance amendment to Chapter 27 that we had discussed at the last Public Works Utilities meeting to prohibit the use of certain foundation types in the city's 100-year regulatory floodplain, which we typically refer to as the slab-on-grade foundations, but includes some basements and some other options. Happy to take any questions on that.
Councilmember Pell. Councilmember Pell, you're on mute if you, I see your hand up.
Sorry, guys. I had my hand still up. I had to go pick up my car before the car
Oh,
dealership closed. Amazingly, I don't have a comment here other than just to say, great job to all. And I think this is a great move in the right direction.
Okay. I couldn't agree more. Any input from any council members, Mr. Mayor, anybody? Have some
Move for
input?
approval.
All right.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All discussion seems to be in on this one. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. H2, small project allocation, Mr. Fountain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I wanted to update the committee on the small projects. As you'll probably recall from last year, we picked slightly larger projects. I'm going to share my screen. We picked some slightly larger projects last year for the small project allocation and spread the financing as a result of those projects in accordance with the expected time to complete those projects over a multi-year period. So the committee is not certainly obligated to necessarily maintain that funding for 2023 or even out into 2024, but that was sort of the intent of the committee at last year's decision making. And I wanted to just remind the committee of which projects those were, what our expected 2023 spend and 2024 spend were on those remaining projects. And I do have, in case we want to look through it, kind of the history of projects and where they stand that we've approved in past years from a production perspective. But just very briefly for 2023, again, all of these projects were started from a funding perspective, though not necessarily from a construction perspective last year. They do include the Harbison ditch stabilization, which was on James Island. We had a canal that had a collapse near a home foundation, and we're looking to basically restore the erosion protection of that bank along that major outfall canal. The Savannah Highway sidewalk drainage improvement. This is one that is obviously in construction at the moment, hence the relatively small remaining spend on the project. That was the design and installation of drainage and side slope stabilization on that south side of Savannah Highway. Sandhurst conveyance improvement and outfall maintenance. This is a neighborhood in West Ashley where we have completed the engineering evaluation and survey work and come up with some project recommendations for improvement of drainage in that neighborhood. We also did a drainage rehab for their existing, not the marsh portion of the outfall, but the piped portion of their outfall system. But obviously still have quite a bit of work left to go in that neighborhood with relatively large funding over the next 2 years for a small project. Willow Walk, the rear yard swale and the shore and retrofit project. These are the projects down in James Island where we are restoring, which we've now completed construction, restoring the rear yard drainage system in this neighborhood, in the lower part of the neighborhood. And we've completed the in-house grading of the acquired residential property we previously demolished under a grant. We've actually just about completed procurement of awarding the replanting project for that, and then we will do a little bit more upstream rear yard drainage system work over the next year. So that's the remaining funding on those. Lockmore Terrace drainage project. This is in Outer West Ashley. Basically looking to remove trees and construct a swale through a rear yard drainage system, somewhat similar to what we did in this Shoreham project. We've done in some other neighborhoods. Ferguson Village drainage project. This is in James Island. We've done some work to date with the Charleston Museum on the downstream side, ensuring maintenance of the water to be able to get out from Riverland and out in the marsh. We've been working through surveys, and now we're preparing easements to try to obtain more drainage easement within the neighborhood to do some additional maintenance and reconnect some of that somewhat historic drainage system. Anita Drive at Magnolia. This is also in West Ashley, Inner West Ashley, looking to acquire some easement to try to connect an existing road system more effectively into the bikeway drainage system. There's a ditch in there with no easement, and it's not very effective at moving the water out of the road systems back into that improvements on the bikeway. So that would be a large improvement if we can get to it. If we can get to it with the water through the easements. So that's the next step there, is to do the survey work and then try to acquire that easement. Howell Avenue, the Greenbelt pond design and finishing. This is at the end of Howell Avenue and James Island, where we purchased the property with the Greenbelt and the county and city are working collaboratively to design and permit and then construct a basically a floodable park system at the end of that property. We're in design currently on that project with a contracted consultant. Asbury Place pipe upsizing. This is also in West Ashley. Basically looking to try to upsize the last few pipe sections of a large pipe system. This is somewhat south of where the Whole Foods Shopping Center is located. Trying to improve some drainage flooding that we have in this area as the drainage system kind of chokes down right at the outfall before you get into the marsh system. The Oak Forest outfall system improvements, we've talked about this one quite a bit over the last few weeks. This is work where we're trying to acquire drainage easement from the Baptist church as well as the car wash site. And then on the north side of the property, get some cleaning permissions, some drainage permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and OCRM, and come back and basically restore all of this drainage system. That will continue to happen over the next couple of years with that permitting time frame.
Yeah, before you leave that, how's the conversations coming with the church and the car wash?
They both seem very interested. So we've had a contracted surveyor out putting together the easements and plats for them to review and hopefully sign to then bring to Public Works Utilities for approval to accept those easements. So far they seem to be effective partners. Right now, what we're trying to do is get it on a final survey so they can make any adjustments or ask any questions they have of exactly where the easement would sit on their property.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things we would need to do likely for that, Councilman, is to replace the pipes that are in the church driveway that crosses that channel. So I think they'll certainly see a benefit from the improvement, since that pipe section and some of the downstream issues cause quite a bit of flooding in their parking lot as well. So there's a lot of benefit both in the upstream residential neighborhoods as well as on the property itself.
Good. It's a win-win.
Yes, 100%. And then the Rebellion Road outfall cleaning. This is in West Ashley also, in West Ashley. Sorry, I skipped Wagner Terrace. Wagner Terrace outfall permitting and cleaning. These come together. This is in the peninsula in Wagner Terrace. Looking at cleaning some of those marsh outfalls under the new general permit program. These are shorter outfall systems. And then Rebellion Road outfall cleaning in Inner West Ashley, doing the same thing, looking to clean some of these marsh outfalls with hydro excavation, most likely to move that water out into the rivers more effectively. Hazelwood, Taborwood pipe upsizing. This is intending to kind of jumpstart some of the work in DuPont Wapu and one of the more flooded intersections kind of in that section of West Ashley where Hazelwood and Taborwood come together, looking to upsize some of those existing road culverts, get the water more effectively into the canal that's in that area, remove some of the driveway pipes that are very undersized and install some larger pipes.
When do you think that'll get started?
So that's a good question, Councilman. I've got I'll jump in the next second to the past projects, and I show including these where we are on a lot of the projects. So you'll probably remember on the committee that we approved a small project manager position, an engineering position in 2022 budget. That's been one of the positions we've had the most trouble hiring. We're still hoping to get some good applicants and hire that in, but we've sort of been juggling these projects with our existing large capital project managers. So they're a little slower than we would like to see. I'm hoping to get that one started this year. That's the plan, is to start it in 2022 and start doing some pipe replacement work by the middle summer to fall of this year as we start wrapping up some of these other projects.
Thank you.
Yep. And then Dunbar Street area flood storage projects. This is again one that we started over the last couple of years and have been working through drainage improvements in a section of West Ashley that is just below where 526 comes into Highway 17, trying to improve the water's ability to get out of that system, and then trying to find more places to store that water while it's waiting for its turn to drain out through the DuPont Wapu system. And as we've talked about, we also have a partnership project with the county here, where the county is looking at redirecting that water, as Councilman Waring has long been a proponent of, down along the Greenway and out into the river instead of taking it into that DuPont Wapu watershed entirely. And as I mentioned, just for the past projects.
Well, before we leave that page, I see Councilman
100%.
Shea's hand. I want to get his question. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you just go back Matt, to that Anita Drive and Magnolia Drainage Project. And you got $50,000 for this year to acquire the easements, and then you got another $50,000 earmarked in 2024. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Is that extra $50,000 for 2024 the actual work to be performed out there?
So that's likely to be in-house work, and the extra $50,000 will be if we need to add any pipe sections or add riprap sections or do any materials ordering for those in-house crews. It's open ditch right now. We're hoping to keep it open ditch, but if there's serious challenges with acquiring easement, there's always a potential to close in the system as part of getting those easements.
Mr. Chairman, this is that area. This Magnolia's a
Well, I know.
yeah. You know, this is a very old neighborhood, and
Right.
I think that the history of this was it serviced a lot of the folks who worked at the Navy Yard or shipyard back in the day. It is somewhat sad, but I think you've got part of this neighborhood. I'm not sure.
I do.
If that's accurate, but this is a huge flooding problem over in Magnolia, and it's $100,000, $100,000, but boy, that is going to have such a huge improvement for those folks over there. And these are the houses that people are moving into, they're fixing up, spending a lot of investment over there.
Oh yeah.
So it seems like it's, from an odd standpoint, may tie in, and I'm maybe overstretching this, Matt, but it may tie into that Oak Forest outfall in a different kind of indirect way. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not, but it seems to all be kind of tied in together indirectly, I suspect. But this is for $100,000. We're going to get every penny of our benefit out of this investment.
I agree. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Fountain, will this outfall eventually be at the Ashley or the Stone?
So this area is a little bit tricky, and Anita and Magnolia intersect in multiple locations, and
Right.
This is the north side of it. So this will
Okay.
be moving water up towards the bikeway to the north. The
Okay.
area to the south currently flows down into Magnolia and out through the south system.
Okay.
This project will be improving the ability for the water to get out to the north, up into the bikeway, and then out, under Sanders Boulevard and into the river. It may, as Councilman Shade mentioned, it may provide some secondary relief to the neighborhood to the part of the neighborhood to the south, because as we all know, as the water gets deep enough in one area, sometimes it starts flowing a direction that it was not
Yeah.
intending to go in the first place.
Yeah.
But the primary benefit will be to that kind of northern half of Anita is where they'll see the most improvement in some of that Magnolia section.
Thank you, Councilman Shade, for pointing that out. Back on you, Mr. Fountain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was just going to briefly update on where we are sitting on projects, and I'm happy to send this out to the committee. This is the kind of the full list of small projects that we've officially funded, and with green being projects that are completed and closed out, blue projects being projects that are in some progress of design or construction, and then white projects being the projects that we are still waiting to start in a formal sense. They often have had concept work or evaluation work in the field, but not under contract anyway yet. So the section that we're talking about today basically is this last section of projects here, with a couple earlier projects that are still trailing through. But as we mentioned, we do have a few projects we still need to get started on. What we're working on right now are these blue projects. That's what our project managers are currently managing, in addition to those large scale capital projects. Many of those will close out this year. They're not all of them. Some of them, like Oak Forest, have a longer duration, but we're more optimistic on some of the outfall cleaning closing out this year. Dunbar Street closing out this year. Certainly the Savannah Highway project, which should be done in the next month or so, closing out this year.
What about the Shelley Road, number 23?
So the property retrofits, we have the Shoreham retrofit. We finished the grading on and are getting ready to plant that with the contractor in the next month or so. The other three will be bid in the fall, so when we get back into planting season. So we'll be doing the construction work probably again in-house, most likely over the next over the summer, and then hiring basically landscaping firms to come in and do the water-friendly planting, fine grading, doing some irrigation work, and getting those fit to basically be neighborhood amenities as well as drainage features. The Wolk Drive, 2 of these properties are installed. 2 more of them are finishing their TRC review right now and should be going into construction this summer or fall, as well as a little bit of follow-on work on the first 2 properties. That's where we sit. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's all of them, because we have the Oak Forest and Shelley. Those 3 properties will go all as sort of one project in the fall.
Okay. All right. Could you, send it to committee members? Maybe you should send it out to all the council.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I saw your hand. Okay, Councilman Shaheen.
Thank you. Matt, going to number 28, the Dowden area hydraulic improvements. I had a meeting with the folks at Faison on Thursday, and they mentioned that there was an issue with a either undersized pipe or a collapsed pipe on the Old Town Road side by Charleston Estates Road at the end of their property on that easement side. I don't know if you were aware of that. And when this popped up, I meant to tell you that earlier, but you may want to reach out to Barry Whalen, who I think is their engineer manager, and get some more information about that. Because the work that we're doing, that may also help improve if we get some more information about the status of that pipe that they mentioned to me at that intersection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I saw it, but when I saw that pop up, it just reminded me about my conversation I had with them on Thursday.
I don't know, Councilman Shaheen, might be careful. Fix that pipe, might bring more water in that neighborhood faster.
Well, listen, as you know, Councilmember Waring, we it's like anything else. You pull back a layer of something on a project, and you find something else that you were not expecting, and that's sort of when you do a house improvement and you found more rotten wood that you were anticipating.
Oh yeah, into one of those right now.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
So Matt, if I'm not mistaken, we basically funded all these proposed projects, if you count this year's budget and the projected 2024 allocation. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's correct, Mayor.
And do I remember, did we increase the allocation just a little bit when we decided to increase the stormwater fee just a little bit recently?
We've discussed it. I think we were going to hold off and see exactly where we were with fee collection, but that's one of the opportunities if we do receive more revenue than what we need to cover the current expenses in the budget is to increase that small project allocation.
Right. And this is real progress here. And do you have another list of projected projects after all of these are said and done?
We've been starting to put that list together. We have a few projects on the list. We tend to pull back a little bit on the finding existing problems to correct side when we're perhaps not behind, but a little further back than we would like to be on advancing the construction of these. So we're focusing more on the design and construction side right now. But yes, we certainly have a number of drainage maintenance items we've done that we're keeping an eye on to see if they need to go past maintenance and into the small project realm.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, thanks for getting all these done, and I'm just keep sticking with it. And looks like in another year, we'll have quite a few of them under your belt. Congratulations.
Yeah,
we've only been doing these for about 3 years, so it is a very that was including the first year we started when we tried to figure out projects and got funding to them and started working on them. So in the roughly 2.5 years of actual work towards the small project allocation, certainly a lot of improvements have been made around the city on this scale of project.
Right. Thank you.
Mayor, to your point, I think originally though, I think the small project allocation used to be 500,000. Then it was Mr. Fountain recommended carrying it to $1 million. And you're right, we talked about increasing it, thought another 500,000 and 1.5, depending on how revenue comes in with the increase, as Mr. Fountain said. So maybe that's what you were thinking about. You're right, but these small projects mean so much to the people in the neighborhood. It has a big impact. Any other questions, committee members? Well, Mr. Fountain, continue.
Mr. Chairman, this is pretty much what we had at this point, was just making sure the committee was up to speed on what we had tentatively laid out for this year, basically last year, towards these projects, and then what we're tentatively laying out again for next year. There's always the potential that some will end up building in-house and saving some money, and we may be able to reallocate, or if we have overages in other projects. But this is our current plan, barring any recommendations for an action to change, which I think we're in a good spot. I think as the mayor mentioned, we funded all of the current projects that were ready to go to some level of design or construction. So I don't see any reason to recommend a change, but we just want to make sure the committee was comfortable with that approach for the year.
Sure. Any final input from committee members? Yes, that's great work. You explained it right on point, Mr. Fountain. Thanks again for all that you do, you and your team. This assistant project manager, what's the pay range for a position like that? It's kind of hard to fill. I mean, there's not enough money we offer.
It's not, I don't know. I think before we did the pay raises, it probably was not enough money. It's a challenging position because it's a professional engineer licensed position, but one with less experience. I think it's not necessarily money that is always the challenge, is that when engineers first get their licensing, that's often a time of, I guess, mobility in the job market, right? That you're looking to, you normally have to work 4 years before you're eligible to get your license. It's normally a chance to then sort of take the next step in your career. And a lot of people at that age range, if they have started in consulting, frequently stay in consulting for a little while, because that's their first chance to be a manager or be a supervisor to other people. Right. So we're often trying to find people who are a few years perhaps past that point, or who are interested in government. And honestly, the market has just been so explosively successful for construction and engineering the last few years that there's a lot of interest in people still working those fields. So we hired a recent project manager recently from the large capital side who's excellent. He's got 10 years of experience, looks really good so far. That's a slightly higher paying position than this position. This one in a lot of ways is one of the more interesting positions. You get to go out and do a lot of design work and in-field work. I think we'll find a good candidate. It's a relatively small pool of applicants in a city our size. So you just got to find someone whose interests line up with what you're offering. And then assuming we're not in a market where people are actively having to look for work because they're worried about the success of their current job, which is not where we are. So we're normally somewhat waiting to find people who are looking to do some public service or looking to do good and move into a different role. So we'll keep advertising it. I think it's worth it with the new pay rate to keep going. Last year I would have said to increase the pay rate. This year we're relatively in line with what the industry is offering, maybe a little bit low, but not terribly low.
Okay.
I'll come back to you in 3 months if we're still having trouble, Councilman.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Because the reason I'm saying is, maybe we have to pay a little bit more. When I look at the inflationary costs on public works, the time we waste, and I won't say waste, but the time we exert towards the search. In the meantime, the project that we're trying to do is escalating higher than maybe what we pay a person to come and do it. I mean, I saw an article in yesterday's paper. Now, this is school construction, but anyway, up in Richland, up in Lexington 1 district, they were going to build a new elementary school. And the price came back so high, it came $37 to $52 million more. Then I said, wow. So they said, hey, we're just not going to build a school. But anyway.
You're exactly right. A lot of our industry in Charleston has been running 20 to 30% a year in inflation rates for construction costs, which is far above typical inflation, but just some of those materials, especially if you're doing anything mechanical or electrical, has huge lead times and just massive cost increases over the last 2 or 3 years. So you're right.
So see, to me, it's worth paying a person more so we can get the projects going with it. Eventually save the taxpayers in the long run more money.
Well, and I think that was one of the things that, Mr. Chairman, you especially were very supportive in pushing through with the mayor last year, that we did work to reclassify some of our
Right.
field operations group, because we were trying to bring some of these smaller projects back in-house,
Right.
because we can do it much cheaper for small scale work that the contracting community is not as interested in, where there's much more overhead as a portion of the cost for those projects. They still have to bond, they still have to
Right.
manage, but if it's, digging out a canal section like we did over in Dowden, right? I mean, that is something that our guys can do every day and they get really good at it. We just have to pay enough to keep them at the city when they do well, instead of them learning those skills and then moving over to the private industry. We have 2 of those positions advertised right now that we're looking to hire for those senior equipment operators. And we've had some success already hiring in a few extra positions that we wouldn't have had any chance at last year. So we're hoping to rebuild a lot of that in-house construction capability to do exactly what you're saying and save quite a bit of money for the taxpayer.
Well, thank you. I'm sure the mayor and the rest of the council agrees with whatever we can do. Those suggestions that you came up with worked, and whatever we can do to help advance them further, please let us know. Sure.
Appreciate it.
All right. That said, any last input? That brings us to the end of the agenda. By acclamation, we stand adjourned. I look forward to seeing all of you all tomorrow.
Bye. Good
Go
meeting.
Lady, go Lady Gamecock.
I know. That's
Go,
right.
go Gamecocks.
That's right.